I was just thinking we can maybe start at the beginning, sort of where you feel like your character was beginning to mold. Could you maybe talk about that, like, where it all began for you?
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. I'll talk a little bit about my family being broken, separated family, and then coming to know the Lord a little bit later in life. And then how that got me to Lipscomb, and then how it got me to where I am today. Is that kind of where you want to go?
Yeah, definitely.
You ask questions, I'll answer, dude.
Okay. Could you maybe tell me where it is that you began your journey with God, and how that has translated into your business dynamic today, possibly, and how it's helped make you the man that you are today?
Sure. I was a musician at the age of 6, began playing drums. And my family, they had no relationship with God whatsoever. Was I talking to this?
You will, yeah.
I'm not talking. Sorry about that.
It's either way.
And so I never really grew up going to church, and was playing in some bands at the age of 12 and 13. And the Methodist Church had heard about my drumming ability or lack of, and invited me to be a part of a praise team. And so I began playing drums at the Methodist Church, and that's when I first found out about the concept of God. And over the next few years, I played with several Christian groups, and finally went to a state college and was playing a lot of nightclubs at the time, and really kind of off course. And God began speaking to me, and I began to start learning more about God, and accepted Christ when I was at a state college in Alabama. And I had a friend of mine at Lipscomb, and never heard of Lipscomb before, that invited me to visit, and fell in love with the place. So really my transformation took place July 7th, 1976. I gave my life to the Lord. And from then on I came to Lipscomb and began working as an admissions counselor and a recruiter, and actually played drums with a band that recruited for the school.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I got to spiritually, to where really set the foundation for me now.
So then Lipscomb actually kind of presented itself as a good jump-off point for you.
Oh my goodness, no question. The relationships, being able to, really in my mind, I was such a babe in Christ, learning about just the basics of Christianity and learning about grace and mercy and forgiveness. That was huge as far as growing me into where I am now, as far as a business person, salesperson with an organization that I've been with for about 25 years. So,
I've always thought that you were phenomenal with people, and that I've always sort of idolized you in the terms of the way you interact with people. Do you think that Lipscomb, and possibly the people you met at Lipscomb, or possibly Lynn or whoever, started to mold your personality and your management and your people skills that could possibly be translating into your career?
Probably for the biggest lesson I ever learned at Lipscomb was in an accounting class. And the truth of the matter is, I'm not very smart. I made a 12 on my ACT, which is the truth. And my first accounting class that I had, this was after I'd spent 4 years at a state college. I come to Lipscomb as a fourth-year freshman, okay? I took a test, I made a 1. Lowest test grade at Lipscomb ever on an accounting test. And so I had to take accounting 2 a couple of years later to graduate. Was going to the last semester. I've been in college 7 years. And I had a 56 average going into the final exam, and I had to have that to graduate. Ended up making a 54. Well, I go to get my test score and my average, knowing that I had failed, I was going to have to stay in school for another year, and I made a C. And I went to my professor and I said, Dr. Wilson, I don't understand. He said, Mr. Prady, it's called grace. So that for me was probably the biggest spiritual marker lesson I ever learned in my life. About a lot of times I don't measure up, but God's grace, and that's helped me in my relationships now as I work with people day in and day out, and I have a staff underneath me. I always remember that word grace, and the way that I treat them and the way that I treat the people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. So,
I totally agree with you that sometimes somebody who can possibly extend you that grace, or is in a position to, and then later on trying to remember, that it was extended to you.
Amen.
And when
that's
you have the power in your court, that's definitely huge. How many people on a daily basis do you have that sort of either take orders from you or kind of are accountable to you?
Oh, probably a staff of about 10. I'm in the printing business, and we have an organization that's all over the southeast United States, and we have 60 salespeople, and I have a staff of 10 that serve me here in the Nashville area. I'm basically outside sales, and then I have 3 support people, and then I have a warehousing staff that supports our activity as well.
Well, that's a lot of people to keep, to keep track of and everything like that. In terms of your daily life and how you are forced to interact, could you possibly give me a rundown of what your day looks like?
Sure.
and a variety of things you end up doing that maybe you wouldn't think a guy with 10 people under him would be having to do? Because Bill, I've seen you passing out flyers for Blue Coast Burrito. I've seen you doing stuff that most people hire a little college temp to do, and I see you out doing it. So just out of curiosity, mainly, could you possibly give me a little rundown of some
Well, I'll
things?
tell you what my day looks like normally for, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm imperfect with this, but every morning my day starts off about 5:30 or 6. I usually meet with the CEO of Jesus Christ in the morning to get my